Today's episode is part of a mini-series with a student of mine who has a lot of curious questions about circadian rhythms, how the body works, and we had a really good long conversation. So you'll hear this in multiple parts. Stay tuned. Welcome to the Clock Tips Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Melissa Richardson. Thanks for joining us.
When you had sent me the thing, and I was kind of thinking about trying to find holes of misunderstanding for circadian rhythms.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, and this has probably come to your mind before, and I did some research. I read some articles, but blind people and how they're impacted by this circadian rhythm being, because it hit me that, like, man, how important the sunlight is that's coming in to our eyes, that for our cell, or to go to our brains, our SCN, right? The suprachiasmatic
Nucleus, yeah.
Okay. For the light to go there and for it to interact and send information. And just to be sure, it's the light is coming to interact with the SCN, and the SCN communicates with all the other cells within our body in terms of establishing that
coordination.
That coordination, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so, yeah, I instantly thought not instantly, but after some time thinking about it, it popped in my head.
Mm-hmm.
How are blind people functioning?
Yeah.
And then I started seeing that it's common for them to undergo like kind of metabolic or physiological struggles.
Yeah. Good question. So, it depends on the reason they're blind, for starters. So, your eyes have 3 different types of cells that receive light information. The one that people know about the most are rods and cones. And those are primarily the ones that are important for vision, not only, but primarily. And so if those are messed up, but the other third receptor works, which is called the intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells, if those work, the IPRGCs, but not the rods and cones, they could still have pretty good circadian rhythms, because IPRGCs are cells that actually go to the SCN and other parts of the brain and bring light information there by direct light input to those cells. And they're the blue light receptors that a lot of people know about that can disturb your sleep. So if that works, although the rods and cones don't work, blind people can still have environmental alignment of their circadian rhythms. But if you have someone who's blind and their retina, where these cells are located, are like completely messed up, and you don't have any of those light receptor proteins capturing light and working and sending it to the brain, and they're essentially in the dark for real, then they can't tell from the environment, at least with light, what time of day it is. Now, I'll say this. There are other things or cues that have been discovered to help circadian rhythms be entrained or become 24 hours. And they could be cues like food. So the time of eating can actually help the body know what time of day it is if it's consistent. So with somebody who's blind and have no light reception, it would help them if they have certain things in their environment occurring at the same time every day. But it's not as strong as if it was light.
I got you. So outside of the rods and cones, are they just then for color? They're not necessarily there for light perception.
I mean, yeah, it's for both. So the cones are for color and brighter light intensities. And the rods are for dimmer light, dim light intensities. And they both help you to see. Just think about it like this. Imagine you have 3 layers of information transfer. The first layer is the rods and cones, and all of them capture light.
Okay.
They send it to the second layer. That layer just transmit what they captured, and they're transmitting it to the third layer, the ganglion cell layer. In the ganglion cell layer, there are these cool cells that can also capture light. They're not just waiting for it to come through the layers. So they capture the light as well and get it through the layers.
Yes, this is it going on in the third layer, correct or no?
Yes, the ganglion cell layer, the third layer. So everybody, the first layer, rods and cones, they captured, then they send what they know from the light to the bipolar cells. And
That's our second layer.
That's the second layer. And then the bipolar cells send it to the ganglion cells. And then those would take it to the brain. But some of those ganglion cells also can capture light directly themselves.
Like without taking it to the brain for processing?
No, without getting it from the rods and cones.
Oh, they can just perceive it. They can perceive the light all the way from the third layer.
Yes, or capture it themselves.
Or capture it. Or capture it.
Yeah, so they could get it from two sources, through the circuit with the other cells or by themselves directly. So there's like two ways those cells get light.
Yeah, those the intrinsic photosensitive.
Mm-hmm.
Got you.
And those cells go to the SCN.
Okay.
Amongst other places, but that's one of the places they go to.
I got you. And then, so in the third layer, we have normal ganglion cells and intrinsic photosensitive retinal
ganglion cells.
Mm-hmm. And then the normal ganglion cells, they're transmitting the light information they receive from the rods and cones, and
mostly for vision.
Mostly for vision.
Mm-hmm.
And they're sending it to the brain.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Oh man, that's what is the, and then I don't know, the bipolar cell, they just transmitted.
Yeah, they're kind of a mediator, you could think of.
A mediator.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't seem too important. Okay, no. So I wanted to ask you earlier. We kind of segued, but you mentioned something earlier I was curious about memory consolidation and its relationship to sleep. And so, me being a college student, how does sleep affect the ability to retain information? Like, is it better to study less and go to bed early, or to study until like 12 and go to bed late? Like, am I gonna forget everything? Am I gonna remember more or less?
So I definitely know that you do need sleep to remember. So I would suggest sleeping, preparing to sleep. So yeah, working late, I totally do not agree with this. I would say prepare, plan time so that you're able to study earlier in the day. Because like their circadian rhythms affect alertness as well and cognitive function, and these things for a lot of people tend to be higher earlier in the day anyways. So when people wake up and then they're just like, watching TV, hanging out with friends, taking it easy, getting the day started slow, they're wasting some of their best energy. Right? And so if you use that time to do hard things, then
you said they're wasting it, or they're
wasting it, yeah, because your brain wants to do those things usually early. Yeah. And so instead of like taking it easy early, do the hard things first, and then later get ready for rest. Do easier things that don't really require a lot of thinking in the evening time, and then go to bed so you can get consolidation and clean brain, and then wake up and do it again.
Oh man, Dr. Just I am guilty of. I won't say the class of the year, but I had a class, a science based course, and
Uh-huh.
we had an exam the next day, and I was having some car issues,
Mm.
and it caused me to only have the nighttime to study for this
Mm-hmm.
exam to prepare, like starting my preparation.
Uh-huh.
And I had studied all through the night. I don't know if I slept. Maybe I slept an hour or 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I went and I took the exam, and I did very well.
Uh-huh.
But I didn't retain the information.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
And I always say, what's the point of being educated if you just forget it?
no, you're right. You're right. This is definitely this is something that's being repeated.
Yeah, so for
Uh,
all those out there who think, oh, I pulled an all-nighter and I got the grade, but do you have the knowledge, right?
mm,
After the fact. That's the real question. Yeah. Well,
mm.
you're an example. Thank you.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my! It was funny because there and it's interesting too. I really wonder what's going on in the body for when somebody pulls an all nighter, because for the times that I've done so
Mm-hmm.
in the morning when I'm going through, I feel like I have energy.
Mm-hmm.
Like I slept. And then there'll probably be some point in time during the day where you'll feel that fatigue come in,
Yeah.
but it's almost, but it's kind of like a pseudo, like fake for the like 8 to 2 p.m. for me, around during that time range where everything's just good.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah. How people react to all-nighters is actually really interesting. But
Okay.
are there any like last comments, thoughts that you have, questions that you have?
Um. Well, Dr. Houston, thank you so much for having me, and answering my questions, and hearing what I had to say. I really appreciate the new information I learned on circadian rhythms, on the different layers going on within the brain. I'm taking in this time, or taking in the light, and the relationship between the circadian rhythm and our sleep cycle. And I did have a quick question from earlier on,
Mm-hmm.
do our brains, because blue light is not natural light, but our brain reacts to it like it's natural light.
Blue light is natural, so we
Is
have,
it?
yeah, there are
I
lots
thought
of,
it comes from like technology and stuff like that.
so you've heard of the rainbow? There are lots of colors in the rainbow, including blue. And honestly, if you think about light, white light, light that is not a specific color, has
Yeah.
multiple wavelengths in it, right? So actually, in the morning, the sunlight that you get has more blue wavelengths, and the
Really?
evening light has more red and orange.
Oh my goodness. Is that why they do? On the Mac, the Apple products,
Yeah,
that's why they make, like, in the morning is blue, but when it gets closer to the evening, you can
yeah.
change. I don't know if you've seen it. Really?
That's because
Wow.
of your circadian rhythms.
And what? So blue, it causes for
Alertness.
more
You
alertness.
need that to know, like, oh, it's time to go in the morning. But in the nighttime, you're not trying to let's go, right? You need to chill out and go to sleep. So
Hmm.
your brain, blue light is really bad at nighttime because it's supposed to show up in the daytime. So it's very disruptive.
I see.
And those IPRGCs bring that blue light straight to the SCN,
Hmm.
amongst other places, to really mess things up at nighttime. But in the daytime, it's great.
I see. And then the nighttime, you said it's not blue light, but it's more of a yellowish.
So sunset, the lighting is less blue and more reddish orange.
Gotcha.
And that is something that the brain appreciates because it's trying to wind down, right?
Mm.
So It's not getting those super alerting blue light wavelengths anymore. It's getting the wind down, time to go to bed soon type of
Yeah,
light. Mm-hmm.
I see. That's very interesting. I
Mm-hmm.
really feel like the lifestyle that us as students or people have been living for the past couple of decades. I don't know what it was like in the 1900s, but it's not setting us up to have good circadian rhythm.
It's true. Artificial lighting has been convenient and inconvenient, depending on how you look at it. Mm-hmm. It's
Oh
true.
man. Okay, I know we're ending. I may have another question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry,
It's okay.
but I wonder if do you think that the absence of artificial light, I'm sorry, before it came, I don't know what year or what time specifically it
Mm-hmm.
became a thing, but do you think that may have encouraged a healthier population, um, just for people in the United States or in other civilizations?
Encourage the healthier?
Encourage a healthier population in the sense where their day and night cycle is not being altered by any extra external factors.
I'm going to try to answer, and if I don't, please tell me. So,
Okay.
lighting came about in the Industrial Revolution time, and people were also encouraged to sleep throughout the night around that time, I think. Um, but before, like all of this indoor lighting was, flip a switch kind of a thing. Um, it's said in some literature that people would actually sleep two times in the night. So they would sleep for a while, they would wake up for like maybe 2 hours or something, and then they would go back to sleep again. I don't believe the studies back then existed in order for us to know how that affected them.
Yeah.
It's just captured that that's what people used to do. Um, but now, of course, most people, I think, try to sleep through the whole night. Um, yeah, I'm not sure if I'm answering your question though.
No, I think that does play. So you're saying that there weren't studies, there weren't enough studies present during that time to see how that difference in sleep schedule would actually affect your health per se.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot more technology now and a lot more
Yeah.
knowledge of how this whole system, works. So, like the data that's captured is just like social data, probably
Mm-hmm.
more than scientific research per se. But people being healthier now, I think the relationship with light is worse because it's so accessible. You're not burning
Yes.
kerosene lamps that, if you just keep it all night, you might run out of kerosene and that costs
Yeah.
money. Now people don't think as much about the electricity bill if they have the lights on late. Um, at least I don't think so. But yeah, and then there's street lights and TV and cell phones,
Mm-hmm.
so there's just so many more opportunities now to have light at the wrong time. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's comparing apples to pears.
No, no, you make a great point because there is a lot more light surrounding within our world, which is why I was thinking about how these that it might be a possibility that the circadian rhythms of people alive during all this before all this artificial light may have been more intact.
Yeah, so I agree with that. It's probably more intact back then. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Yeah, I wasn't sure if that's what you were asking.
Yes, no, yeah, that's what I was asking.
Yeah, and so like if people go camping and things like that, more likely, if they follow the natural lighting outside, they're probably going to get some great sleep. Thanks for joining us today, David. I learned a lot from you, and I hope our listeners, could take home some information that they could find useful in their life as well. Thanks for joining us today. Please visit our website at clocktips.com for more information about this podcast, how to join our ongoing research study, and more resources to help you improve your time intuition, sleep, and productivity. If you found this information helpful or interesting, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with others and join the discussion on our social media platforms under the handle @myclocktips. Until next time, take care of yourself.